All right, good evening, everybody. David Paul with you in the KHOU 11 Weather Center. This is your Monday evening Atlantic tropical update. Now, we've got a couple of tropical waves on the Atlantic side this Monday evening, the 11th of October. Neither of those look like they're very impressive or are going to cause any significant threat to the United States or really anybody. We're going to go over those. But it's what's in the Pacific, which is at the moment Tropical Storm Pamela, that looks likely to impact a big chunk of North America, including the Pacific Mexico coastline as we head into the middle part of this week, perhaps as a major hurricane, and then race across interior Mexico and into the southern U.S., Texas and Oklahoma in particular. Pamela could end up giving a flash flood threat, a significant flash flood threat for Texas and Oklahoma toward the middle and end of the week. So we've got a lot of interesting things to go over here. As far as where we are in the season, we've had 20 named storms, Victor the last one. We haven't had Wanda yet. And at the moment, at least on the Atlantic side, it doesn't look like Wanda is about to form. Now, if we do get tropical formation this time of the year in the Atlantic basin, it is quite often here. Southern and western portions of the Caribbean Sea, the Gulf of Mexico, or the western portion of the Atlantic. And it's a couple of reasons. You've got the warmer sea surface temperatures here in October. The rest of the Atlantic is beginning to cool off, so that reduces the number of storms. And also, quite often this time of the year, what you've got are the first cold fronts of the season pushing off the east coast, pushing into the Gulf, sometimes pushing all the way down into the Caribbean. And those surface fronts are basically elongated troughs of low pressure, and quite often you can get a little focusing of a low pressure area to form on a front, and you'll get activity out here. That's why the stats are the way they are. So what does it look like out here this evening? Well, for most of the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf, it's quiet as a mouse. But we do have a couple of spots that are close to the Caribbean. This one just east of the Lesser Antilles Islands, a slight chance for development. And then another spot where there's a little wave here over the island of Hispaniola, and it may be able to develop as it moves into the eastern Bahamas over the next several days. So at the moment, this tropical wave near the island of Hispaniola, which may move near the Bahamas, has a 0% chance of developing next 2 days, a 20% chance for development over the next 5 days. That's this wave. And then our other wave here east of the islands has a 10% chance for development over the next 2 days or 5 days. So low chances for development on both those waves. The rest of the Atlantic is quiet. Upper level low spinning east of St. John's. Scattered thunder showers off the west coast of Africa, but nothing else showing any signs that it's going to get going as far as a tropical system. Now, a closer view of our two tropical waves. And that's all they are right now. So here are the Lesser Antilles Islands, Greater and Lesser Antilles. And this is our first wave. And you can see these are surface streamlines. See this little wave pattern up and over? It's a very weak wave. There's the trough axis. I'll change the color to red. It'll be a little easier to see. There's your trough axis, and here's your very weak, disorganized tropical wave with a few scattered showers out here. So that's one that we're watching. And then the other wave over the island of Hispaniola is a little more defined wave, but still just a tropical wave. We don't have any type of closed, low or closed circulation forming on either of these. And as we go to the top of the atmosphere, up to the upper level winds, 250 millibars, up at about 34,000 feet or so. The one over the island of Hispaniola, there's a lot of wind shear here to the north, and so it's already being kind of ripped apart. A significant upper level trough sitting here southeast of Miami. So that's unlikely to develop because of those upper level winds. And then to the north of this wave, there is some shear. It hasn't really gotten the heart of it over the developing wave there, but you can already see the clouds being sheared off to the east by that upper level piece of shear. As we've talked about several times this season, when you've got that upper level shear, it tips over and can rip apart developing systems, never even allowing them to form in many cases. And I think that's the most likely outcome for both of these. So what do the computer models say about all this? Let's take a look at our GFS and Euro combination. Here's where we stand right now, neither system developing. As we go forward in time, our wave near the islands is not picked up by the computer models, but this wave is picked up by the American model and a little bit by the GFS as well. So maybe we get some sort of weak, exposed little tropical swirl forming here north and east of the Bahamas. This is going into Thursday. And then from there, if you remember, we had this upper low sitting here with a whole lot of shear, just kind of wanting to tear everything off to the north and east. So watch what happens as this tries to develop. What there is of it gets pulled off to the north and east, and it has everything to do with those upper level winds. So it looks quite unlikely that either of these is going to be able to develop into a tropical system of any type of consequence. We'll keep an eye on it, but for now, mostly quiet in the Atlantic basin. It's what's going on in the Pacific that is going to impact North America, and maybe quite significantly. This is Tropical Storm Pamela, and the storm itself is getting better organized. It's still just a tropical storm, but it's a strong tropical storm. Winds of 70 miles an hour, so 74-mile-an-hour winds would up it to a Category 1 hurricane. Pressure's at 992 millibars. That's been falling this afternoon. Pamela's getting her act together. And as it moves to the north, it's going to be moving into an area that is still relatively unsheared. So here's the center of the storm. These are the upper level winds at 250, and they're very light over the storm right now. Very light. So we've got very light shear. The storm is able to get vertically stacked in this type of environment and rapidly intensify. That's the potential. Now, I know you're looking to the north. You can see we've got quite a bit of shear up here over the southern tip of the Baja, Cabo San Lucas northward. But for the moment, this storm is not being influenced by that. So it looks likely that Pamela is going to intensify not just into a hurricane, but perhaps into a major hurricane. In fact, that is the forecast from the Hurricane Center for Pamela to become a Category 3 major hurricane as we head into Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning, and split the difference between Cabo San Lucas and Tuxpan. So anywhere from Tuxpan to Mazatlan to Cabo, heads up. This is going to be a very tight squeeze for what's going to be a powerful major hurricane. Mazatlan, at the moment, you are forecast to take a direct hit from that. The purple are hurricane warnings that are up for the Mazatlan coast of Mexico as a Cat 3. And after that, after making landfall, this is going to be a significant flood threat for interior Mexico and the southern United States. So the storm itself comes right across Mexico, but you've got the southern branch of the Rocky Mountains in here, significant flash flood threat interior Mexico, and that will continue to be a flash flood threat all the way into Texas and maybe up into Oklahoma, Arkansas, the Arklatex as we head into the end of this coming week. These decaying tropical systems are notorious flooding makers. This is not dissimilar to the couple of storms that made landfall on the Gulf Coast and then raced up and flooded New York and the Northeast. Only this time it's happening here, making landfall near Mexico and then racing into Texas and Oklahoma for its flash flood threat. What's going to pull this storm to the north? It's that big trough in the upper level winds, reaching down, grabbing the storm, and eventually pulling it. The one thing we've got going for us with this, as far as reducing the potential flood threat, is that this storm should be moving very rapidly. That's a significant trough, and so those winds will grab it and have it moving at a pretty good clip. But that's the remnant low in central Texas going into early Thursday morning. So this is going to be a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday flood threat for Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. And so here's a look at the future radar. And we go into Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. That's heavy rain. And remember, we're looking at the upper level wind streams, the winds at 34,000 feet. Notice how they're also splitting. There's a little bit of upper level divergence going across central Texas going into Thursday morning. Moisture from a tropical system in place, upper level divergence. There will also be an approaching cold front coming in from the northwest. All of those ingredients are the makings of a flash flood. What we have going for us is that this system should be moving very rapidly. So it's not forecast to sit on any one spot for too terribly long. That being said, the potential rainfall as we head through the rest of this week, 3 to 7 inches from Del Rio to Dallas. I think that's likely. So there will be some spots in here that have flash flooding. Brownwood, up on the Edwards Plateau, down to Del Rio, even down to the Rio Grande, and then even up to the Red River. So this is not just Texas that has the flash flood threat. I'm watching you Oklahoma, Arkansas, so all the way from the Mexico border to Fayetteville, Fort Smith, the eastern half of Oklahoma. You may have several inches of rain. It's a significant flash flood threat. This will be going into Thursday and Friday for you folks in Oklahoma and Arkansas. And you get up into the foothills of the mountains up here, and that rain can be wrung out. And it's been my experience that quite often these rainfall forecasts they underestimate how much rain can come out of these decaying tropical systems. So heads up for the flash flood threat, and do take it seriously. Watch your local weather departments. That's where we stand right now with the tropics, with it being Pacific tropical storm, eventually Hurricane Pamela, becoming the biggest threat to Mexico and the United States this week. I read your comments. Thanks for leaving them. You can hit me up on social as well. We'll see you on Tuesday for another update.